I'm here with Jimmy Dore. Jimmy, what are you thankful for?
What am I thankful for?
What are you thankful for? I'm here with Michael James Kacey. And Michael, what are you thankful for? Hello, welcome to the Nowman Show. I am Nowman, the superhero of the present moment. What are you thankful for?
For life, for every moment, for waking up every day with a sense of gratitude, for being able to absorb the piquancy of every single moment, for the love of my wife and family, for the friendships that I have. Thankful for love.
That's fantastic. Michael, what are you thankful for?
I'm thankful for my family, my wife, my two sons, my brother, for me to be an artist, for me to live my dream. I say dare to dream, dare to live the dream. And you're going to have ups, you're going to have downs, and you're going to doubt yourself sometimes. And to have a family support system, that core group, their love and support, and say, yeah, continue to be who you are, be the artist you are destined to be. I'm so thankful for, because everything else that's come my way wouldn't have been possible. And even if it is possible, I don't think I'd enjoy it nearly enough without my family.
Hello, this is Niswander, and I'm here with Kyle Salazar, who is a writer, director, producer, cinematographer, social media maniac, and so much more. But right now he is working on his first full-length feature, which is about vervet monkeys in the Limpopo province of South Africa. So first, let's watch a trailer. Check it out.
They always say that the vervet monkey population is increasing. We say no, it's not increasing, it's increasing in urban areas because you keep chopping down all of their forest.
All the way to Kalabura, you can see monkeys.
There's no peace, and they come in hordes, raid everything in the garden, they come into the house, they have fights.
I thought, shoot this bastard.
You killed 25 last week?
Yeah, apart from him,
Do you not think that's a bit cruel?
I'm not cruel.
That's the thing as well with the vervet monkeys, they're like the straw that breaks the camel's back, in the sense of the Afrikaans people are in a country that was run by them and now isn't run by them. They're trying to make money off of farming, and maybe they have a bad year and they don't make much money, and then the monkeys turn up and they're like, right, that's the only thing I can take out my aggression on, so I'm going to go shoot a monkey.
Inevitably it's human error that causes most problems with animals.
They're cutting down the forests, they're cutting down everything, not for people to eat, to feed the cattle, to feed people.
We take responsibility for like really small parts of our lives, but our lives project outwards.
In the scientific community there's kind of an acceptance now that these monkeys have feelings. It's ridiculous for someone to work here for a month, 2 weeks, a day really, and not see that they have personalities. You can't put two monkeys in the same situation and have them act the same.
You've got traditional beliefs mingling in with capitalism and trying to create wealth, blah, blah, blah. It's a mess.
But there are other people, if you ask, he can tell you the monkeys is the witch.
The hands of monkeys are used to cure the small children.
This is like the new world, basically. I mean, you know, I know they refer to as the third world, but I mean, they're developing. These are countries that haven't been developed, and you are developing. Surely, there should be some idea about developing it properly.
Every year it becomes more and more vital that these type of areas are preserved and looked after. And it becomes more and more difficult to look after.
We need to protect endangered species. That's part of our heritage. If you don't protect your heritage, you don't have future.
There has to be a change and shift in human attitude at some point.
We really need to try and live with our neighbours.
People must just accept each other, because changing culture is not easy.
I think when you get back to nature and you start seeing things from that side, you look at the world very differently.
You can never be able to coexist with animals and human habitation 100%, but at least try and keep what you can.
Kyle Salazar, thank you for being on the Nowman Show.
Thanks, man.
So, tell me, what did we just see? What is this movie about?
This movie is about so many things, but in particular, it focuses on this species of monkeys called the vervet monkey. And they're pretty prevalent throughout Africa, but I've chosen to focus on this population in South Africa. And that's because there's this rehabilitation foundation for the monkeys called the Vervet Monkey Foundation. And they actually take in orphan monkeys, monkeys that have, been captured and sold as a pet that then get rescued from being a pet because the people can't handle a monkey anymore. Mm-hmm. Or a monkey that's been hit by a car or shot or caught in a snare of barbed wire. All different sorts of stories, even down to baby orphan vervets who are like few-week-old newborns who've had their mothers killed by those same means, and the babies have nowhere to go, so this foundation takes them in. And that's sort of where the film's central focus is. It's on this group of orphan baby vervet monkeys, and it follows them through the first 6 months of their life. We see them learn how to literally walk and talk, monkey language, but talk and drink from a bottle and eventually eat solid foods. And we watch them, learn how to climb and then interact with each other and then other monkeys in troops. And meanwhile, this is all being facilitated by local African staff members and volunteers who come from all around the world. And then in the end of this simplistic, beautiful story is this heartwarming resolution where these baby vervets are introduced to foster mothers, which are female mother vervets, established members of troop hierarchies on the foundation. And these babies are then raised for the rest of their life by these mothers and actually get a family structure to live in for their lives. So they go from being these terrified little babies who have just been either hit by a car, let's say, and they end up at this place knowing nobody, knowing nothing, and end up then 6 months later being with moms and getting a life. So I sort of use this story, this view, this very humanizing view of these animals as a catalyst for a much broader conversation regarding lifestyle sustainability, the ideologies behind cultural oppression, and a lot of topics regarding sort of how we look at animals and how we look at one another, and especially when it comes to the ideas of I guess you could call it speciesism. That would be the term to call it. Speciesism is something that's a very serious issue, and I think that throughout history we've never thought about animals as something that's worth anything more than an economic value or an adorability factor. And so when you start looking at animals as something that's greater than just another species where we go, oh, well, if it's not a human, it's not really worth anything, then you start to kind of look at these things differently. And I think that in a country that's been wrought with so much racism and so much violence for hundreds and hundreds of years, where the majority of the population has just been bashed and diminished continuously, it's really important to bring up the topic of why. Why do we treat each other the way that we treat each other? And how does that methodology reflect and then rebound into our daily lives? And how does it affect others around us? And how does it affect the way that we go about the things that we do and the way that we're influenced to purchase and to consume and to help? Because you think about these animals and you think about them and you say, well, it's an animal. It doesn't have economic value. It's a cute thing, something. But you think about people and it's like, we will do anything to save human lives. We're so adamant about saving human lives, From people that are born with certain handicaps to someone who loses a limb, someone who's starving. Someone else will always be out there like, you know what? Like, these people deserve a chance to live. But throughout time, so many fewer voices have stood up and been proponents of animals having that same sort of necessity of life. And it's funny to think about because you look at the average human being and how much benefit does the average human being actually give to the earth? How much benefit does the average human being actually, put out there so that there's a progressive change happening that creates some sort of movement toward goodness, toward lifestyle sustainability, toward realistic endeavors that allow, a progression of love and enjoyment. So much of human life is wasted away purely on an economic fantasy reality lifestyle.
And the system that we are a part of, in the case of the Vervet monkeys, I mean, part of the Monkey Foundation, it's called the Vervet Monkey Foundation, right?
Or the VMF.
The VMF for short. Yeah, and is the economic, or shall I say, the ecological role that the monkey actually plays, like even in the natural environment, like it mentions something about the seed germination and the food dispersal.
Yeah, the monkeys
and then they realize exactly, and that's part of the ecosystem, correct? I mean, is that, and you go into that in the film and the importance of that and connect it to the role that human beings play in all this,
as well as other animals. Because what you're talking about is
and we're looking
monkeys,
at one species, right? One animal of one.
Well, it's easier to focus on one topic, and it's more accessible for the average person to want to watch, or any person to want to have their attention invested on one thing that they care about. And what's more fun to watch than a baby animal and a baby monkey, nonetheless, that's going through a story? If you can draw some sort of intellectual comparisons that can be given to the average person who does not indulge in scientific entertainment, then suddenly they're going to be learning something just by enjoying themselves. And I think that's the massive message that I'm trying to profess, is that that's the element of current social media that I think is weak and that needs to have the biggest change, is that, and when I say social media, I mean all media throughout history. It's always sort of, it's always sort of pushed forward people that don't necessarily do anything.
That's right.
They're just sort of like, they have a product, they have something to sell, and that's cool.
Right.
But like, there has to be a point beyond cool. There has to be a point where everybody's not just trying to be cool. And there has to be a point where it's like, no, but what about like what you're doing? Like like think about your impact. Think about your responsibility as like a creature that's living and surviving. Like, we are very destructive and careless, and we really focus on ourselves because we allow elements of our lives to just compact down on us and become the most like overwhelming aspects of any aspect of the day. Every breath can become labored because of some minutia that occurred between an interaction of disagreement. And it's like, but wait, there's so much more going on than these like ridiculous parodies of life that we throw each other into.
Yeah, and explain how the Vervet
Vervet monkey.
Vervet monkey. It's really easy to get that confused, like with vermin. And
exactly.
Because technically there was that element to it too.
Oh, they've
right?
always been considered a vermin.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny that their name is so similar to vermin, vervet, but they're not vermin. And that's the issue.
Exactly.
Is like they do have an important role in the ecosystem, like all animals. You know, I was reading a book today and just kind of brushing up for this, and it's called The Conservationists and the Killers. And it's all about conservationists versus killers in South Africa from, you know, the founding of the country throughout the years. And in the early 1920s, the 1910s, conservation was this huge discussion because before that, for the past like 200 years, they had just been killing everything.
Right.
And it was funny to look at the way that they approached conservation because they looked at the giant herds of game and they killed all these game, and then suddenly it was like, no, there's no game left, we have to preserve them. So they began to preserve the game, set up little places for the game to live, reserves, things like that on farms, and they started increasing the population. But then they also started saying, well, we need to have our cows grazing. And so at all times, there was always some sort of animal that was considered a vermin because they were either detrimental to the grazing of the cows or livestock, and then they were detrimental to the big game. And, you know, obviously a lion is detrimental to both of those things. A leopard is detrimental to both of those things. And so early on, those were very much so considered pests. And you think about that today and you're like, wait a second, like a lion and a leopard being a pest, that's just silly. Like no one would consider them a pest these days. Like that's an important heritage, it's an important cultural icon. It's like, why would you think it's a vermin? It's like, well, because it had an adverse effect against human growth. It would do things, it would attack people, and it made people say, oh, well, we don't want this around us because it kills things that we need to survive.
And humans are the ones that came up with this concept of entitlement and ownership.
Exactly.
So it's like, you know, we're encroaching on the territory of the natural environment.
Right.
So how can we look at these creatures as getting in our way?
Right. Because
you know,
we're
aren't we
super
getting in
predators,
their
though.
way?
But because we're
You know?
super predators. And if you look at anything from that perspective of like the knowledge that we are predators and that we are also bacteria that are just proliferating as quickly as we possibly can, then it's no wonder that we're so good at it. I mean, we are specializing our lives in order to be able to procreate with ease.
Right.
And so we always want to do everything that's going to benefit ourselves. Now we're getting to this point in our consciousness where I feel as if we're understanding, hey, maybe everything else around us actually plays a role, and it's not just about us like exploring, because you look back then and you look at the way the world was set up, and going to America from Europe before America was discovered was like, you know, going to the moon. It was crazy. You had to travel across this vast sea for months, years. Who knew what was going to happen? People would die, you get illnesses, things were crazy. But now the world's so small.
Right.
We've probed and prodded to a point of like, you know, near boredom.
Right.
And we're going, okay, well, now we've created this entirely artificial universe called the internet. Nothing's really that scary or foreign anymore if you get out there and you explore a little bit. Like, you can get around easy, you can communicate easily. What are we doing? Like, what if we haven't gone there and we're still here and this is all we know and this is all we have, then like this whole mentality of vermin and like bad for humans needs to change.
Yeah, and the thing that is, you're talking about the internet being, you know, artificial, but a lot of truth is coming through the internet that would not.
It's real. It's there. It's a reality.
It's there.
It's tangible through a medium, and that's how all things are. Reality is only tangible through the medium of our senses. The internet's only tangible through the medium of a CPU.
Right. Exactly.
But I mean, it's a reality. But sorry, what were you saying?
No. Well, the internet is a tool now. People consider it as a tool, so you can actually. It's an artificial mechanism, you could say, man-made, where the truth can now be disseminated from. You know what I mean? And more of it and immediate.
Well, individual truths can be obtained through other people, and that's never going to be an immediate truth. But you can find a variety of information, and with amalgamation of information, you can then formulate a greater truth for yourself that helps you guide yourself in a way that feels better to yourself.
And because of, in the topic of the animals and the ecology, now we are seeing a growing awareness of how to change our lifestyles and start to transition back to kind of the way it used to be in ancient times, in many ways. We're seeing people becoming more vegetarian, people are becoming more vegan, they're becoming more aware of animal issues, and it's through really the man-made concept of animal rights. It's the reality of the fact that these are living, breathing creatures, you know, and even through the theory of mind, that it can be determined that these creatures are like humans in the sense that they do have feelings, they do have empathy, they are very deep. I mean, when I was watching that trailer, looking in the eyes of those monkeys, it just pulled me in. Like,
totally.
You see so much depth in those eyes.
Yeah. If you can look into its eyes and feel something, you immediately feel some sort of camaraderie, some sort of compassion, and then suddenly you have something with that animal. Suddenly you're there, you know?
The theory of mind, I found this on Wikipedia, there's an interesting definition. It's the ability to attribute mental states, beliefs, intents, desires, pretending, knowledge, etc., to oneself and others, and to understand that others have beliefs, desires, intentions, and perspectives that are different from our own. It is kind of philosophy of mind. So the same thing could be said about creatures, about monkeys even. You know, and it's even been determined that rodents probably understand what empathy actually is. So mind is a much bigger concept in looking at this whole perspective.
I think you have to, I mean, monkeys are like, I'd say, one of the primary proponents in research of theory of mind. There's these two scientists, one's a biologist, one's a psychologist. Their names are Dorothy Cheney and Robert Seyfarth, and they are both huge in the field of primatology. And they are both at the forefront of theory of mind. I mean, this is kind of their brainchild in a funny way, but they studied a lot of vervet monkeys in this theory of mind study that they've done, as well as baboons, and rats as well have been studied, dolphins have been studied. And I could give you a ton of different interesting anecdotes, because there's a lot of great books out there that talk about theory of mind, and it's becoming a much hotter topic.
Hey, whenever I'm in Los Angeles, which is all the time, I'm always checking out the Nowman Show. It's the best Nowman Show ever right now.
I'm here with Jimmy Dore. Jimmy, what are you thankful for?
What am I thankful for? Medical marijuana. That's what I'm thankful for. You know, a lot of people always asking me to get the marijuana because I have my marijuana. And I'm like, why don't you get your own license? And they all say the same thing. They all say, I'm afraid if I do, my name will end up on some kind of a list. Yeah, it ends up on a list of people who can buy pot. It's a good list.
Yes. The celebration continues with what I'm thankful for from A to Z. What are you thankful for? Starting with A. A is for art. Adventures in Wonderland. B is for Beatles. Books. C is for community, compassion, caring, and comedy.
He said a line which really has given me comfort and pause, but it really, really works. He used to say, when you're born, you get a ticket to the freak show.
Yeah.
When you're born in America, you get a front row seat.
D is for David Bowie. E is for enlightenment, exercise, and extraterrestrials. F for family and friends, flowers, fork in the road. G is for gardening and gratitude. Gabriel, as in Peter Gabriel, in your eyes. H is for happiness, humor, and hummus. Hollywood. I is for intuition and intelligence. Indigenous. J is for Jimi Hendrix.
What's the buzz? Tell me what's happening. What's the buzz? Tell me what's happening.
K is for King Crimson, Kale, and Kissy. L is for love, of course.
And if for some reason we don't agree, I still must love you and you still must love me. We may not seem to get along, but love is the reason for this song, and I've got to love you this way.
But also labyrinth. M for music. Marimbas, not to be confused with xylophones. Mutual aid. And mountains. N is for nature, networking, Nowman, and now. Hello, this is Nowman. O is for omniscience, omnipotent, omniactive, omnipresent, and ocean. P for plants, plant-based diet. Pink Floyd, philosophy, peace. Prince. Q is for Queen. Yeah, the rock band. R is for revolution of the heart, rock and roll, reggae, man.
What I feel is what I know.
S is for Star Trek, sociocracy, surfing, spontaneity. S for squirrel. T is for trains, Tesla, the universe according to Nowman. The Nowman Show, and I'm here with Mike Garson, who is a keyboardist, pianist, composer, and he is also known as a collaborator and sideman with numerous artists. In this particular episode, we're going to focus on David Bowie. U is for the universe, universal law. V is for vitamins and vitality. W is for worker-owned cooperatives, making all the most important decisions together. Wish trees for Pasadena. And wisdom. X is for xylophones, not to be confused with marimbas. Y is for yes, yerba mate tea, and Yoko Ono. Z is for Zappa and Zoo. Some examples of what I am truly thankful for, and I'm thankful for you.
The past is gone, the future is yet to come, it's now, right now. The present is here, the future is near, but it's right now. You know, being with you makes the party complete, so keep the body moving and show us your happy feet. At the end of the night, when all is said and done, I wanna know I did the right thing and had a lot of